Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out with us on the Purpose Pursuer webinar. And today we're having a conversation about something related to principle number three, blueprint principle number three, which is that you come ready-made with everything that you need to fulfill your purpose. I'm so grateful for this. I'm so grateful for this because actually what we're talking about today is when things cross your path, how do you know which one to take, which one to let go of in order for you to pursue your purpose correctly? And this concept that we're bringing to you today from principle number three, that everything is in you already to fulfill your purpose, that actually helps you make decisions. It helps you determine what to pick up and what to set down. And ironically, this kind of goes against normal thinking. What we need to set down is actually a lot more than what we need to pick up, both with relationships as well as projects. So thanks to the panelists today for hanging out with me and having this conversation. All of us as entrepreneurs, as family members, as people on this planet, all of us as practitioners have experienced this conundrum when we're faced with a decision and we're trying to figure out which way is best for us. And so we wanted to get together today and help you with our own experience dealing with that same thing. So the question for me is, how does knowing your blueprint help you make decisions? Why would that matter? And each of the panelists have their own questions regarding this, and each of them are going to share with you some of their thoughts regarding this. But for me, if I'm outside looking in and I'm saying, well, how does knowing your blueprint help you make decisions when you're at a crossroads? Knowing my blueprint as I have, I refer to it as my internal compass or my internal guidance system. And if you think of a regular compass, it's going to show you what true north is. When you're going along in your life, you don't necessarily know what your personal true north is. And that's where the blueprint process comes in. The blueprint process is intended to help you identify what that true north is, so that as these projects and relationships and crossroads come to you, these questions come to you, you know what to refer to in order to make the decision. And as I mentioned, there's more that you need to say no to than what you need to say yes to according to your true north. So once again, how does knowing your blueprint help you make those decisions? Well, all I can do once again is refer back to my own situation. So I've been doing the blueprint process as a business since 2006. And since 2006, it's been plugging right along and everything's been working just fine. I would say about 5 years ago, I knew I was going to come to one of these crossroads with my business structure. And it looked like this. I knew based on my calendar and my current client list, I either needed to keep going with my clients and my graduates and keep working with them till the end of time, or I needed to bring in other people to hand them off to so I could keep taking in new blueprint clients. It literally came down to the question of, do I want a constant influx of new clients, or do I want to keep with my small key group of clients and work with them till the end of time? Now, I could have gone to business professionals and gotten their advice on what to do, and I probably would have heard a variety of different opinions. But instead, I went to my internal compass. I went to my blueprint. Now, a blueprint, we don't see any today, but a blueprint is a 3 by 3 foot banner that is full of all the natural stuff that you've been given to achieve your purpose. So why did that help me? Well, I had to remind myself of what my natural is. I had to remind myself of what comes naturally to me so that I could then make the decision that would go best with my natural. Now, why is that important? Well, if you make decisions that go against your natural, you will feel it instantly. It will instantly start to drain your energy and you will constantly be questioning your abilities. Whereas if you make a decision, as I did, that is aligned with my blueprint, my internal compass, I'm making a decision that actually uses my natural values, passions, purpose, and values. And so consequently, my business structure 5 years ago went in a different direction. I chose a different path so that my business, the very thing that I spend the bulk of my time on and that I earn my living through, aligned with who I am naturally. So, as I mentioned, that serves me, but it also serves my people. If I had gone against my grain just because of business advice, it would have been a lose for me and it would have been a lose for my people. Ugh, you just don't want to do that. So here we are at the Blueprint process. And as a group of practitioners, we want to unveil for you your natural internal compass so that as you go through your life and you're looking at relationships and projects and tasks over which you get to choose what you invest yourself into and what you pull yourself out of, you too have a 3 by 3 foot banner on your wall that you can refer to identify your natural and align your life's decisions with it so that it's a win for you and it's a win for others. So, as I said, this beautiful group of practitioners is here with me today, and they're here to ask each other questions around this concept so that you can hear some of their own experiences with this same issue, hopefully illustrating for you the power of knowing your internal compass. And let's not forget the fact that you do have one right now. Whether you know it or not, you have it. And this 3 foot by 3 foot banner that I was mentioning that has 100 things on it. Values, skills, passions, and purpose. Every single person on this planet has one, whether we know it or not. And we as practitioners are here to unveil that, show that, reveal that to you so that you can use it when you make decisions going forward. So we have a beautiful group of practitioners here today, and they each have a question that they're going to ask each other by way of illustrating this concept with principle number 3. So let's go in this order. Let's go Frank, Ray, Bill, Jen, and Seth. And please let us know if you have any questions as we go. And we would love to answer. We would love to engage with any questions you have. Don't worry about interrupting. And if you practitioners, if you could help me kind of keep an eye on the chat, that would be great. So Frank, let's start with you and your question. What do you have?
Well, my question came from the principle number 3. You have everything you need. I love that. So my question was, what are some indicators, guideposts even, that show up and give you that quote unquote, I feel at home here, confident feeling when you're faced with situations needing a way to go forward, to proceed?
Excellent. All right. So you're wanting to ask the other practitioners and those listening, what are the guideposts that you use to determine if you're on track with your natural? Am I hearing that correctly?
Actually give you that feeling that is like, I can go, I can proceed. I'm good. I'm good going. I'm equipped. I can
All,
do it.
all signals point to yes.
Yeah.
Got it. So Ray, let's start with you. Let's go in the same order. So Ray, Bill, Jen, and Seth, if you could answer Frank's question. Go ahead, Ray. How would you answer that question? What do you look for? And you're muted, love.
You all right. Yeah, I think you actually touched on it during your part of it, Tammy, was really when there seems to be a lot of resistance, well, or have that feeling of being uncomfortable, out of sorts, maybe. or it seems like a real struggle to get something done, I guess I would say I would take pause on that and start to look, as you had said, look at my internal compass, or listen to my internal that would be it, to listen to my internal compass and see if there's another way, maybe even to accomplish the same thing, but just in a different way.
Ooh.
And when you sense that sense of peace and ease, and maybe you could even call it the support of nature, then I would say that that's when I feel like I'm reading the signposts correctly, the guideposts. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. I love how you pointed out that you can still go for the same thing, but do it in a different way, a way that uses your natural.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Excellent. And Bill, how about you? For Frank's question, what do you look for to determine that it's all systems go?
I just know.
How? How do you get yourself into a state where you can trust that inner knowing?
Well, first off, I don't try to get myself into a state, because if I do, it's usually the wrong state. So I just rely on where I am in the moment.
Okay, help us some more. Talk to us about your process of being able to listen to that knowing.
Well, I think it's been somewhat summarized already to a great degree. I guess you get a lot of signals from different areas. My mom used to tell me that if I didn't pay attention to what God was saying, that he would speak louder and louder until I did. And usually, I guess you could look at that from a secular standpoint. If it becomes so chaotic, you have to realize something's not right. And hopefully, long before that, you get the message.
What is the feather versus the 2x4, something like that?
Right. Now, I usually had to get the 2x4 quite a few times, so I kind of know when I smell wood dust that I'm in trouble.
Yeah, yeah. That's good. Yeah, we're all smiling and nodding. Yes. We'll look out for that smell of wood dust. Thanks, Bill. Hey, Jen, how about you for Frank's question of what do you look for to determine that it's all systems go, your blueprint is saying, yes, you're on the right track?
So my internal compass, I think you guys all heard me refer to her as sassafras. She talks very loudly. She talks to me a lot. So I listen to her a lot. Listening to her might look like sometimes I'll get, if I'm going to know that I'm going in the right direction. Sometimes I'll get my hair, like my arm hairs or whatever, standing, and that's usually a really crystal clear indicator. To know that I'm going in the wrong direction, then I'll get hair on the back of my neck standing up.
Interesting.
Different indicators like that. Or just like that warm feeling. Sometimes I'll get an ear ringing, things like that, just kind of depending. So I get a lot of physical sensations, and so I pay really close attention to those to know that I'm going in the right direction, if all that makes sense.
It does. I love the different answers here because it helps people understand that they don't have to be just like us, which of course Blueprint lets us know that. But I appreciate that each one of us is looking to very, very different indicators to determine how to go forward. So thank you for sharing yours. Seth, how about you? What do you look for to determine that it's good to go?
So one of the things we talked about in the beginning was knowing our purpose. So what that assumes is there was a time we didn't know it. So in that space of finding your purpose and defining that and the cause underneath it, I can tell with something if it's in alignment with that or even closely related, I at least know that I'm in the right, say, quadrant in terms of direction. And as I start moving within that, there's a certain level of trust that goes with it. I think the more times that I practice this, the more natural it becomes. The first few times it feels just yuck and foreign because prior to knowing purpose and cause, it was kind of the flavor of the day, perhaps.
Yeah.
So getting on the other side, there's that alignment feeling. There's a fluidity to it. Like I know, as we talked about physical indications, I know whether I'm stepping into something that feels really natural. And also from the external environment, you immediately get feedback from the people that are around you that you're really onto something because it's flowing. It seems really easy to you. Like a good indicator in groups like this when you're onto something is people are looking at their desks and writing notes like mad. So it's a good indicator that you're really flowing in your purpose and have that alignment. So that's what comes to mind for me.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that external feedback, especially with your people, which we know is sometimes it feels like fewer. It feels like it's a rare situation where we're actually getting that feedback. But oh my gosh, I love that feeling when you know that you're aligning with other people and they're nodding their head or, like you say, writing copious notes. It's so heartwarming. So thank you all for sharing. Thank you, Frank, for your question. And Ray, how about your question for us? And you are muted again.
There we go. So my question was, do you find yourself ever thinking about how this process has to do with legacy or a history of you, as well as purpose? And if you do, how do you mix that thought into your discovery with your clients?
I love that question of legacy. Excellent. Thank you for the question. It's a very thoughtful one. And Bill, what would you say by way of answer?
Well, I guess the whole exercise of going through the blueprint kind of gets you to uncover those things that you didn't know you were supposed to be working on, or things that were part of you, but you didn't really have them crystallized. So consequently, if you have done this, like we've done this, it becomes very clear why you're here. So I guess working that into legacy would be that if you're working within your purpose, you're working within your legacy.
Mm. Excellent. Thank you. And Jen, how about you?
So, yeah, absolutely. I think about that a lot, especially as I've learned more and more and got more clarity around my purpose. And it's become, just kind of like my spice cabinet where I know what to do with each one. I'm like, here, I'll add a little dash of this, a little dash of that. And as far as legacy is concerned, I love seeing like my kids and my grandbabies come in and see mine, and they can not only reflect on those or ask meaning about it, but I can also notice in my children and my grandbabies some repeats. That's been a fun notice. And also sometimes I think I've mentioned before how to know what to ask them to do. So if I'm needing assistance, how to ask them. I know they have that blueprint purpose item, so I can ask them about that. So I see that passing on in legacy in that manner. And then when with clients, finding out about mixing that in, a lot of times I'll ask them, have you ever had a parent, a friend, a mentor, somebody who you looked up to that would constantly ask you to do something that they would say, hey, you're so good at this. Will you do this item? And I don't know that that necessarily fits in with this, but it kind of does in a way that other people are recognizing those blueprint items. And then my people will also probably have similarities and, can guide them in how to work with other people or their people per se in passing on that legacy. Is that very clear?
It is, yeah, I think so. I love your example of your kids and grandkids coming in and seeing yours and asking questions about it, and you seeing it mirrored in them and helping because you being in the position that you're in of actually knowing your blueprint, you're now able to actually identify it in them and promote it in them. And oh my gosh, what a legacy if there's nothing else you did on this planet to be able to help your kids and grandkids, et cetera, identify their own blueprint and start working towards their purpose, their legacy. It's beautiful. And actually, something that Bill said is just kind of striking me, that working in your purpose is working in your legacy. I'd never thought about it that way before, but oh my gosh, yeah, hello. That's, for me, it's like a forehead slap moment. It's really cool. Thank you. Thank you both. Seth, how about you? What do you have?
I really like the legacy purpose thing that you just mentioned and Bill hit on. For me, seeing this migration of story, a big part of my community are people that have worked through adoption, whether it was as infants or later in childhood or whatever that looked like. But to see that story that early on had a particular direction that is completely opposite than what my blueprint revealed, I think is what's been so transformative. To see that a story that was really, to be honest, a big negative for me, ended up generating the tools and revealing purpose, passions, values, and skills that are now serving a broader community, I think just blows me away every time I look at it. So that transformation of a history that you might have had that you see completely turned upside down, and that the transformation that happened there, I think really puts me in a position to share that with clients, because now they see the transformation, they see the tools that were utilized in the space, they see that perhaps the stuff they're going through as I meet people in different storms, that the storm doesn't have to be debilitating, that it can be a chance to really seek deeper meaning and do the change that's meant to happen there. So seeing that connect together just every time gets me. So that's what came to mind for that question.
Yeah, lovely. The trajectory, the concept of trajectory really came out in your story. The trajectory that your childhood suggested. And we all have trajectories that are suggested to us from a variety of different places, whether it's career or, as yours is, childhood to adulthood. And that it was a false trajectory, but it was all that you knew. It was what your life and the people in it had mirrored back to you. And because of Blueprint, you found out exactly how God saw you, and thereby identified a new trajectory that's exciting for you and positive.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Bill, how about you? What is your question for the practitioners?
It is, how do you know that you have, or how do you know or confirm that you have all you need?
Okay. And could you maybe put a little bit more context behind that?
Well, it related to the third question.
The third principle.
Yeah, the third principle. So it says you have all you need.
Right.
I mean, I know that the context that was going in under was the fact that to kind of put people at ease, that they don't have to go looking for this, that they all contain it within themselves.
Right. Thank you.
But the follow-up to that would be, so, okay, how do you know or confirm that you got it?
Yeah. How do you know or confirm that you have it? It's an interesting follow-up to Seth's story. So Jen, let's start with you. How do you personally know or confirm what number three suggests that you have, because of your blueprint, you have everything you need to pursue your purpose? How do you personally gain conviction around that or identify that?
Really just that internal knowing. I feel like we all have a level of that it manifests itself in whatever way it is. And so for me, it's that internal fuzzy feeling. It sounds silly, but just having that internal fuzzy feeling and that confidence that I can tap into that any old time that I need. Like if I might be doing something that is not within my blueprint, boy, I can sure recognize that that is not a piece. So I can have direct confirmation that that's not part of my blueprint, right? And so then the same thing is true. I can have those direct confirmations internally that say, hey, yes, that's true. And again, more of that listening type of thing where we all get those prompts of like, hey, you're right on. Even though this feels difficult, you're spot on.
And Jen, what do you do, if you don't mind me asking, what do you do as on a daily, weekly, routine basis that helps you listen, hear, and trust that internal knowing more?
So a good practice that I do quite often is what that I call the 3 Ds, like delete, develop, or delegate.
Mm.
That is a practice that I use quite often that tells me that either I am doing so if I'm doing something and I cannot find in my blueprint print inventory to complete that, that means I need to delegate that to somebody else. Or maybe I just need to delete it off my plate. That might also be the case where I say, hey, is this truly necessary? And so then if I get a no, then I will either delete it, or does it feel difficult because I have not fully developed or used that blueprint item in a while? It's kind of rusty, it's atrophied a little bit. And so maybe I need to strengthen that muscle. So then I will develop that muscle or that blueprint item to have more strength for that part, for that task or whatever it is I'm doing.
Lovely. Can you give us the 3 Ds again?
Yeah, sure. Delete, develop, or delegate.
Lovely. And how often would you say that you go through that? Or is it something that you do based on a feeling that you have?
I use that near constantly in my everyday life. I'm doing that when I'm just inventorying anything. I mean, it might even be inventorying a closet or inventorying my mind. That's a good,
Nice.
like, you get deleted. I do not want to develop that thought. I do not want to delegate that one either.
Right. You're out of here.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
on a daily basis, that's just rolling around in my mind. And if it's a delegate, is there somebody in my life that has that skill that I can enroll to get said task done?
Excellent. Once again, using other people's blueprints, whether they're aware of it or not.
Absolutely.
Seth, how about you for Bill's question? How do you know that as principle number 3 suggests that you have everything you need to fulfill your purpose? How do you know that?
So I go back to a number of Bible verses that I perhaps just read over, but now after I'm gaining more and more trust with my design or with my blueprint, as I apply that more and more, trust certainly builds. So, I go through the seeing that I'm created in God's image. I see that I'm beautifully and wonderfully made. He knows the number of hairs on my head. So I start before perhaps I read that and I'm like, well, that's nice. I'm sure people feel that way and, good for them. Today, when I read that, it's like, holy smokes, he's talking about no kidding me.
Yeah.
What?
Exactly. So noticing the meaningfulness and the depth of those things now, and having that awareness of, as I've said a few times today, the before and after,
Mhm.
I think really reveals for me.
Love that. I so understand what you're saying. You know, you read that stuff and you think, isn't that nice for other people? And whether it's subconscious or conscious, you reject that it could be for you too. And yet that's exactly what we're here saying to everybody today. And it's actually principle number one. You're bringing in principle number one as well. Thank you, which is that purpose is a divine event. It's not something that some people have and other people don't, because some people put a lot of work into it and other people don't. No, it's a divine event, meaning, first of all, it was divinely inspired by all intelligence. Wow. And secondly, everybody, absolutely everybody has a purpose. So thanks, Seth, for bringing in number one as well. Frank, how about you? How do you know that you have everything that you need to pursue your purpose?
Well, this one question in its brevity was actually us gravitating towards this. They're all great questions, but the thing that came to my mind is, how do I know or confirm that I have all? That word all really has been a kind of a thing throughout my whole life. It is like, well, I don't have everything. I don't have all that I need. Therefore, I can't make a move. And it's like really stymies things. And I go, takes me back to the idea when I was first putting together the blueprint with you, Tammy, is like, we're dealing with this truck full of tools. Yet I have this tool belt that I take in to be able to use now and apply now towards a given task. And I don't need to have the summation of this. My trust in God that He has all.
Yeah.
And I have access to that doesn't stop me from starting right now and going forward. And in my blueprint, it's like the unload, unpack, and deploy. The deploy really comes into that. It's like when I'm speaking to somebody out in the world about my experience with blueprint, it's kind of like everybody wants to deploy. They just are kind of like, hey, I don't really have the confidence that I have everything. And when are you going to have everything? Well, I don't know. But it's like, why don't we just start? Yeah, with calm and as we unload and unpack, things will reveal itself where you can go back to that truck and go grab another tool. Or like Jenny was saying, go grab another person that has that expertise and say, hey, here's a way to deploy. And so, yeah, that's what I saw in Bill's question.
This is a great tie back into the original question, which is, how does knowing our blueprint help us identify where to go, how to go, when to go? And you're identifying something that is so crucial to recognize, and that's that all of us feel a sense of freeze because we don't want to make the wrong decision, or we don't think we have what it takes, whatever. So we either freeze or we turn away from the very thing that our blueprint and our purpose needs us to pursue.
Right.
So I so appreciate your perspective, and God has all, but we have a unique contribution that, as God expressed, that absolutely needs to be made. And once again, that's what Blueprint identifies. So thank you, Frank, for helping us recognize a way that we can move past that inertia. Ray, how about you? How do you, according to Bill's question, how do you know you have everything you need to pursue your purpose?
Well, the thought that came to me was, before going through the blueprint process, I, like many people, just what Frank was just talking about, you kind of go, I don't have everything I need. Oh no, I can't do that. And I think that it was a level of confidence that we have, or lacking thereof, But then going through the blueprint process brought that confidence and brought, like Zeth said, the trust. And I would also add that it brings the energy to move forward.
Mm.
But yeah, I would just say that the going through the process gave me the confidence to know from this point forward that I have everything I need. It's just a matter of, Frank used the truck, and we've used the analogy of the basketball players in the past, which players should be on the court and which ones should be removed and added, and things like that. And when you have the blueprint, you can, and so you ask, how do you know? So it's the blueprint process and the things like Jenny was talking about, the 3Ds. I'm always building on this confidence and everything and the blueprint process by looking at the 100 or 99 that are on the blueprint, is reviewing those over and over again and meditating every morning and night, and just knowing, like Bill had said right at the very beginning, he just knows. And I would say that's how you just know. You have it all.
And I appreciated you mentioned in your answer there a daily practice that you do to tap into that knowing, and that's that meditation day and night. Do you want to talk more about that?
It's connecting with the divine is really what meditating is for me. I practice a particular form, transcendental meditation, because it's why I live in this town. But it's about connecting to cosmic consciousness ultimately. I don't know if I'll get there this lifetime, but that's really what that is connecting with the divine every day, at least twice a day. And actually you're connecting with them or praying during the meditation, of staying connected, like always being aware. Like Jenny talking about that she practices these 3Ds every basically it's always on her mind. And that's what the meditation does for me, is keeps me connected to the divine voice, the intuitive voice. I don't have a fun name like Jenny has for her voice, but it's definitely there. I should name it.
And so what you're saying, if I'm hearing correctly, is that by doing this kind of bookending your day with this meditation in the morning and at night, do you feel that develops your internal muscle of being able to feel that connection with him all day, every day?
Yes. It's like doing mental push-ups in a sense, or spiritual connecting push-ups, that it strengthens all the time. And, depending on somebody's belief system, you'd be doing this for lifetimes after lifetimes if you stay on that path. Ultimately, from the transcendental meditation point of view, it's to get to, and probably other meditative ways, it's about getting to what is known as cosmic consciousness, which is you become one with the creator of all. So
thank you. Appreciate that. All right, let's move to Jenny and your question for the practitioners.
Sure. So my question is, when you find yourself off course, how do you leverage your internal compass, or your blueprint, as we call it, to make necessary course corrections? And can you share a specific time when that process has helped you?
Excellent. Thank you. Seth, how about you? I know that you have some examples in your history of this exact thing. Do you feel like sharing one?
Oh my gosh. Let me pull out the Rolodex, it feels like. So I think we've had a lot of conversations about work. Like, for example, before my current role, I was invited to apply to this security role within a church. And as we started looking at Blueprint, there's elements of providing protection to a broader group that really resonated with me. But I think as we started going through my blueprint, recognized very quickly that the focus was off. Like it had an element of what I could do because I've had a bunch of varied, professional experiences. So I was like, oh, yeah, I can definitely do that job. If I don't know how to do it, I'll figure it out, and whatever, we can get this done. But then as I started looking at the deeper blueprint, it is the people connection and certain elements that were resident, but it wasn't the focus of the community that I was designed to serve. And that was looking at the subset of a broader congregation that was people that are in storms, mirroring for them what God sees in them so that they can move through the storm faster and know that they're not alone in that storm. Ultimately impacting, as we talked about today, legacy and other, bigger and much better things. So seeing that transition took it away from, oh, I need to get a job today, to that's a definite no. And I can't even remember, like this happened, 2 years ago? So at 56 years old, it was like the first time that I experienced a definite no. No anxiety after it. It was just no, it's not the right focus. And I'm continuing down the road because I know there's going to be a next that will better align. And I have had 100% faith that would happen.
I think you just made the webinar for us, sir, with that story, because again, the question today was, how do you use Blueprint to help you navigate the choices that are in your life? And that's such a good example. Not only were you able to recognize, because of all the nuances in Blueprint, you were able to recognize, okay, it fits a piece, but not enough. And then so you were able to say no with conviction, but because purpose is a divine event, that conviction became divine. And like you said, you were able to say no to an opportunity with no anxiety consequently. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think the divine within the church, I think, made it even more ironic. In that before it was secular and church driven. So if I'm going to the church side, well, that has to be divine. And then to find the nuance underneath that was pretty powerful.
It's a really good point. It's a really good point. And knowing your blueprint, knowing your internal compass and all of its nuances, and knowing that it is God inspired, God derived, God designed, it has the ultimate authority behind it, doesn't it? Thank you.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, me too. Whew. Go, Frank, what you got? Oh,
I don't know how that happened. Anyway, Jenny's question is like the two things that kind of flew off the page at me was off course and course corrections. And the whole idea here is like knowing the blueprint, knowing my blueprint is that is the course. And the other word of course correction in the past would have been, okay, something else to try. Something else to contrive or try in order to get a particular result. And what I'm looking at here is like that the blueprint process helps me by connecting again to what it is that was the original the coursework, the pathway. And it's not something new to bring in or something new to bring to bear, but to bring back into focus. Take it off, dust it off. Somebody made that reference. I was writing down here, exercising that muscle that's under exercised, knowing that the muscle's already there. And so that's kind of what I saw in that.
Love it. You're bringing to my mind how we often talk about the difference between internal work and external work. And the concept of an external course makes you think there's something you need to add or detract. There are things out there that I can manipulate and move around like chess pieces. But Blueprint is an internal course. It's a divine course. And because it is, you can use it in any situation. And the power of knowing, as we've talked about, that we have everything we need within us. So we can go into any situation, whether it fits us or it doesn't, with this internal course. And we will not only be shining the light of God, but our circumstances, our external circumstances will change consequently. So thank you for bringing that to light. Ray, how about you for Jenny's question? How do you course correct?
Well, I can just say as an example from yesterday, I was talking with a client and he had a question. He was very close to making a decision about something, but he had a particular question that was a little complicated for me to answer until I got some clarity through somebody else. And I actually find myself getting a little anxious because I always think that I want to get answers to people as quickly as possible. So because this guy wants to make a decision, you know?
Yeah.
And I find myself like running around in my head, you know, and I should have said delete. But it's running around in my head that, you know, I got to get this answer. And so I ended up asking two different people the same question in the same organization. And I got my answer. And then I thought, well, that wasn't a complete answer. So you know, the hamster wheel keeps going. And I thought, okay, this doesn't feel right. And that's when I actually just let down, just said, relax. This gentleman can wait, and until I get a good solid answer of which I have. And now I can calmly and confidently just go about our business, so to speak.
Lovely. Did you get a question for you? Did you in that moment when you recognized that the hamster had gotten right back on that wheel, did you meditate in that moment?
No, but I had a conversation.
Tell me more.
Well, I had a conversation in my mind that this doesn't feel right. This isn't working for me. That sense of peace has left me. And I've grown accustomed to that feeling of peace.
Yes. Oh.
And I want it. You
know?
Like who wouldn't?
Yeah.
And so as soon as I recognized that, because it wasn't at a time when I would normally have meditated, so to speak. But certainly the voice, that connection, and the clarity of the voice, you know, that I just know. So again, I'll say that maybe I need to name that voice.
Yeah.
It's a fun name. But I already have a name for it in a sense, but it's not quite as much fun as Jenny's.
Yeah, right. Well, let us know when you decide what the name is.
Yeah.
or maybe he'll let you know.
Yeah.
But what I like about what you brought up is you are developing a relationship with your divine. And as you're fleshing that relationship out, one of the fruitions that have come, or one of the fruits that have come, is a sense of peace, no matter what your external circumstances are. And because you were able to tap into that peace, you were patient and waited, you got the answer that felt right to you, and then you shared it without that panic that can come in the absence of peace. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
And Bill, how about you for Ginny's question? How do you know that you are off course and get back on course?
Well, first, you have to determine whether or not you're really off course. Sometimes the ride can get pretty rough, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're off course. So you kind of have to assess whether or not it's just rough water, or whether you got to keep paddling, or whether you need to, as Ray said, need to take a pause and go deeper.
And how do you do that? You personally?
Well, I think we all do it our own way for sure, but it is basically internal. It's a meditation of some sort that however people choose to do it. But I guess you come to a crossroad, and you kind of have to ask the question: is this the right direction, or do I need to switch things up? Give me a sign. And I've never been disappointed.
With getting a sign.
Yeah.
And then that sign, when you get that sign, that's what helps you either stay to the course that you're on or change course.
Right. Yeah, because again, if I guess the way to phrase the request is, look, this is pretty rough. Am I doing the right thing, or should I make an adjustment? If I should do the right thing, give me the strength to do it. If not, give me another alternative.
Yeah. And I love how you say you've never been disappointed.
No, it's a factor of surrender. If you can just surrender your own ego for a few minutes and get out of the way that it's not some personal failure. And again, failure is actually probably one of the greatest teachers we can have. It's really a blessing. It's not a curse. Because again, we're human beings. We're pretty thick. It takes a while to get through.
So true. Thank you. And thank you, Jenny, for the question. And Seth, let's finish it off with your question for the peeps. What's your question for us today?
Well, I'm a terrible question asker, because I'm a painter, so get ready for this.
Okay.
So as we were going through today, two things came up. Was either the example, and I'd love to hear perhaps a story from you all that fits one of these two categories. Either in my case, like the adoption story that had a bunch of negatives around it, perhaps, that I carried with me, but it ended up revealing purpose ultimately. So either a transformative story like that, or we talked a lot today about the before purpose and after purpose. So is there a story, when you think of the before and after, of something that you can look back on and handle differently, or something today that really revealed the power of purpose and knowing your blueprint? So a few options on the painting, but I think in those stories and the differentiation there of our experiences will really pull home the importance of finding your blueprint and stepping into purpose.
So if I'm remembering correctly, it's a before and after story, the contrast of what it was like before you found your purpose and after, yes, or a transformative story like your adoption story that really highlighted and moved into purpose. Is that correct?
Perfect.
Thank you, sir. Frank, what you got? Which story would you like to share? And you're muted, just so you know.
Pass me up for now. I'm kind of like stuck.
We'll come back to you. Ray, how about you? Do you have one of those stories that you'd like to share?
help me say the question again.
Yeah, Seth, go ahead. Well, you're taking a drink.
No, we're good. So 2 stories, either a before your purpose and after your purpose, what that transition was like, or a transformative story. In my case, it was the adoption story that brought with it early on a bunch of negatives and things like that. But ultimately, underneath all that was really my purpose and what ultimately defined who I engage with, how I engage, what my community looks like, all those types of things.
And it's a really, really great. It's a rich question. We may not be able to get to everybody, but does anybody have a story that's coming to their mind that they'd like to share?
I'll give you both before and after.
Thank you.
Before the purpose, before the blueprint, when I would relax, I would drink too much. After the blueprint, I stopped drinking.
Interesting. Can you say why? Are you comfortable answering
Sure.
that question?
Sure. Well, it wasn't like I couldn't do my work. I was a functional drunk at worst. But it was killing me. And it may still have, but it's not because of the alcohol now.
What was it about the blueprint process and identifying your purpose that got you past that interest?
Well, if you're going to live out your purpose, you kind of have to live it out, right? And if you're not here to do that, well, that's the end of the story.
So how did you see for yourself, your path? How did drinking distract you or compromise your pursuit of purpose?
It gave me comfort for 15 or 20 minutes.
Got it.
Before
Okay.
I fell asleep.
Got it. Yes.
And then you wake up and the problem's still there.
Got it.
Now you don't feel so good.
Yeah. I thank you so much for letting me put you on the spot with that. We know everybody's story is unique, and I'm so fascinated.
That's just one example. I mean,
Yeah.
there's probably a dozen others for sure, but that was the shortest one I could think of.
I appreciate it. It's powerful example of what happens to a person when they know their purpose. And Seth, I know the same thing is true for you. And same thing's true for me too. And again, sadly, we don't have time for all of our amazing stories, but does anybody else want to share before we wrap up? Go ahead, Ray.
Oh, Frank, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Ray. Are you sure?
Yep. Oh.
Yeah, that thing that came to me is that before the blueprint, it brought to mind an old experience I had of putting together a kind of a dream board, and how somebody made a remark one day that, "Hey, Frank, that's a great looking dream board full of BMWs and Rolex watches and mansions, but it's beautiful, but it just isn't you. Somebody's, but it's not you." Anyways, that was before the blueprint, where I was trying to live out of somebody else's expectation, or live out of somebody else's suitcase. Whereas after the blueprint, and now we have all of these, the purpose and the clarity. That's it. That's my point. The clarity of what really is the mission, what really is the work, and not needing to contrive or rise to an expectation in a certain place or an organization, but to just go, no, this is really this gives me confidence. This gives me encouragement. This animates me, versus the other one would just frustrate me and leave me depressed.
Agreed. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Seth, for that question. Ray, thank you for being willing. Jen, I know you've got your own stories. So here's what I would ask. We are going to post the recording of this next week in LinkedIn and on our website, blueprintprocess.com. If you all, as practitioners here, if you didn't get a chance to share, if you would just in the comments on LinkedIn, just share your story of what knowing your purpose did for you. Again, principle number 3 says you have everything within you right now to achieve your purpose, and your purpose is one of a kind. It's not going to look like anybody else's, as Frank was mentioning. So thank you all for coming up with great, great questions today and sharing them, sharing from your heart and your personal story. That's just so valuable to other people. And so I thank you guys for being humble and transparent in the way that you are. Thank you. And next month, we will be meeting the day before Thanksgiving for this Purpose Pursuer webinar. How appropriate is that? As we've just identified, we all feel incredibly humble and grateful that we know our purpose and our blueprint that enables us to pursue our purpose with success. Love to you all.